Hello, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the conference and doing fine. I am Francesco Chicchirico from Terasa, and I'll guide you through the wonderful world of open source IAM, showing how multiple projects can be uh, done together to perform a better result. So, very short introduction about me. I'm a member of the Apache Software Foundation and VP Apache Syncope, but also managing directory at Terasa, an Italian-based company that works worldwide to provide open source IAM services to our clients. So first of all, let's agree on some words to use to refer to the technologies we like the most. Because as you know, the IAM word is so complex and diffuse and diverse that sometimes we are not using the same terms to refer to the same things. So first of all, let's talk about identity management. Identity management is the hard part of the job, is where all the data is synchronized and kept under rules, under control. So we're talking about provisioning, compliance, reporting, workflow, policies, all the hard stuff. From the other side, we have access management, the brilliant twin, that instead is busy with making users recognized by systems and also authorized to perform their actions. So when we say access management, we talk instead about popular standards like OpenID Connect, SAML, or doing multi-factor authentication or single sign-on. So all the front-end stuff. These two technologies made their best when they are joined together because they are in effect complementary, as you probably already know, because very often one works with the data managed by the other. Having a single tool to manage all this complexity can be a winning situation. And finally, we have integration. That is the key for the implementation of business requirements. This is, in fact, using the technologies together seems to be also trending among vendors. The most popular and big ones like IBM, ForgeRock, and Oracle or NetIQ are doing this since long time. So this is our reference scenario. We're talking about the domain situation where we have the provisioning engine on the backside, the identity manager, that is working across identity stores or directly through applications to synchronize the data, to keep everything sound and safe, to produce reports, to ensure compliance, to apply and enforce policies, etc. The people that is working with a provisioning engine are all the backend people that is interested in some way at different levels to ensure all these mechanics are working properly. On the other side, we have the access manager that is facing instead end users and is allowing the users to interact with the final application with proper authentication and authorization. So this is what we're talking about when we say identity and access management. So let's see what we can do with a couple of open source IAM tools we at Terasa are very familiar with. The first one is Apache Syncope that we developed quite some time ago and then donated to the Apache Software Foundation. There, our source code became an actual open source project under the umbrella of the Apache Software Foundation. So now it is known as Apache Syncope. Up to release 2.1, Apache Syncope used to be actually an identity manager with some releases. We have some interesting numbers in downloads, and you can also find all the references in this slide to go and look at it. I'm saying up to release 2.1 because later in this presentation, I'll talk about a bit about Apache Syncope 3.0, which is our current main release that is instead bringing some interesting news. The other pillar of our open source IAM tools is Apereo CAS that is hosted by the Apereo Foundation and is working and related exactly to authentication and authorization. So everything that Syncope 2.1 is not doing. CAS has a very large diffusion, starting from higher education, especially in the US, but then from there it stemmed almost everywhere from not only for higher education, not limited in the higher educational sector, but also spanning to different organization and industries. It is very much downloaded. It has a lot of release. It is a very active and diverse community. Nevertheless, sometimes when you start working with CAS and you, as a company, as a consulting company, you are delivering CAS-based deployments, you learn that there are things that could actually be improved in CAS because, first of all, CAS has a very wide range of settings and features you can optionally enable. So sometimes it is difficult to understand which feature, which settings are the best suited for you, and how you could do your organized things to achieve your goals. From the other side, web administration of a CAS deployment can be challenging because there are a couple of tools that I'm reporting in the slides that are attempting to make this task a bit easier, but themselves, setting up these tools is not a breeze. And also there are very quite large areas where the administration is not even possible. And so this is the reason why you end up by doing manual changes, directly logging into the servers, or remembering the schema of a certain JSON file. So things that are making the day-to-day administration harder to accomplish. So that's why the idea. These are the reasons why at a certain point we decided since we are working with Syncope and with CAS, and we are very satisfied of them separately, why not trying to join their forces together to see if we are able to build something that is comparable in features and also in administration and reliability with big vendors' names. So we proposed this to the Apache Syncope and the Apereo CAS communities, and we found that there was a match for technology, because both products are based on Spring Boot. From a legal point of view, that is very important in open source, and please do not believe anyone that tells the contrary. From the legal point of view, they are perfectly compatible. They share the same license, the permissive license, Apache license too. The governance model is also very similar. We have a PMC, a project management committee. We have communities, and both projects are vendor independent, because this is a very strong point, because both projects are hosted by two independent software foundations, as opposite as having a company like my company, for example, that is owning an open source project and is somehow throwing out the sources in the wild. This is not the same. We have projects that are hosted by a community, have a proper governance model, have a way, for example, to manage the security disclosure and threat management. So this is a completely different things. Also, the foundations are supposed to stay beyond the lifespan of the single company that are contributing to the development of the project itself. So this is, for an adopter point of view, to me, this is the strongest point. So let's spend a few words about Apache Syncope 3.0 and also beyond, because this is the way how the project is meant to run at present. We identified a new component in the Syncope architecture, and we named it Web Access. So we have WA. WA is a kind of CAS distribution. So in the same way as you have Linux, that is the kernel, or a GNU Linux system is the kernel and the utilities, and the Windows Manager and whatever is building the whole system itself, you can also be a Linux user if you are using Debian, or if you are using Fedora or Ubuntu or whatever, or Arch if you are quite hackerish. We thought the WA to be a CAS distribution in the same sense. So we are consuming the artifact produced by the CAS community in Syncope, but we are organizing these artifacts in a structured way that fits into the Syncope configuration model. So we have a set of predefined and pre-integrated components from CAS, but still we have the possibility to extend the configuration and to grab optional features from the CAS project itself. And secondly, we have this concept of push. The idea is that you use Syncope Core and Console, that is a web-based application, to define all elements you want define for your CAS deployment, for your WA deployment. At a certain point where you are satisfied of the configuration you are building, you hit the push button, and this configuration is deployed into the running WA instances that are connected to your deployment. In this way, WA will reload itself with a new configuration and show and behave accordingly. This is very, very important, and also because it brings you with a consistent way to find and deploy configuration across a number of WA instances that are connected to your deployment and that can scale easily. But also has for granted some things that are not even considered in the standard CAS configuration. For example, dynamic reload. So, for example, in a typical scenario we are encountering in our organization is that sometimes, for some reason, CAS is connected and do some Active Directory, is configured, sorry, to do some Active Directory authentication, which is unfortunately happening quite commonly still. But so you have everything configured, all this is fine, great. Users go and authenticate themselves against Active Directory. At a certain point, for some reason, you need to restart your CAS server because you have changed some bit of configuration or whatever. So beware, you are restarting the application, not reloading in the way that WA is doing. So what happens? When CAS is starting up as an application, for some reason, it's not able to reach Active Directory or not able to do the authentication because the credentials were changed or the certificate was expired or whatever condition could happen, so that the connection to Active Directory cannot be established successfully. So what happens? CAS is not able to start up. So, and all the authentications, even the ones that are not configured to use Active Directory, are just broken. So these things cannot happen with WA because in the same scenario, we can just ask from Syncope to push a new configuration to a running WA instance, which is reloading itself without restarting the application and can dynamically exclude the failing component as Active Directory, leaving all the rest of the configuration safe and sound. So this is very, very important. Another aspect we are leveraging here is the managing of configuration history. So, for example, if you go and define a new authentication module or a new policy or a new application, and after deploying, pushing the configuration for those things, you see that things are not working properly, so you just want to undo what you did last time. This could be challenging with a vanilla CAS deployment. With WA, we have the configuration history. You can just revert last change and do a new push, and everything is supposed to be back working as it used to be. So this is just a wild screenshot of the WA configuration section of the Apache Syncope console, where you could see the elements that could be configured in a running WA deployment. So we have all the authentication modules, the attributes repositories, client application, the aspect that you could do to configure your WA instances to act as SAML 2.0 IDPs or OpenID Connect providers, various parameters, the profiles of the users currently logged, the sessions available, whatever you could do, you can change. You have a web-based administration to do that, and then you hit the push button, and these items are translated into native CAS configuration that are reloaded at runtime by all the connected instances. A very, very quick look at the whole Synco 3.0 architecture, where you can see all the various components that are part of a standard Synco 3.0 architecture, and in particular, web access, that is the component we have been talking now. Besides this, we have other components like the core, that is the REST service that is implementing all the services consumed by the other components, an admin UI, the one from which I took the screenshot of the slide before, an end user UI, or again, a web application for doing self-management, password resets, and everything that is self-registration. So whatever operation is targeted by end users. The web access component, as we said, secure remote access based on Spring Cloud Gateway, and as you could see, an API management component based on Spring Cloud Gateway, as said. And then you can connect other applications or components or whatever to the REST layer offered by the core. Finally, this is the last part of the presentation where I'm going to show you a very few real-world use cases where we have been deploying the open source components I've been briefly discussing. First one is the University of Florence in Italy. We have actually several universities as our customers, so we are seeing a common pattern for applications, for the user types or the workflows, and also for the limitations or the rules to apply for authentication, for authorization, etc. So this one in particular for the University of Florence was interesting because we are integrating with several local and remote nationwide components that are granted for authentication and authorization. We are also doing self-service. We are integrating with the Italian's national authentication system named SPID, and we could also do the same, for example, with EIDAS, that is the European level system, the same way, that are both based on SAML2. So this could be of interest in case you are thinking of integrating with pre-existing infrastructures. Second case is Gordon Food Service, based in the US and Canada. Up to a couple of months ago, it used to be the largest deployment of Syncope we have, that is around 400 key users, but it was recently surpassed by another customer we have. I'm unfortunately not allowed yet to disclose its name, but there we are reaching up to 9 million users, with, in my identity management experience, is a limit that I never even touched by far. So the system itself is running on those numbers with no particular fears. Back to Gordon Food Service. In this case, we are not using WA, not using CAS, only the provisioning features, but we are integrating with Okta, that is, as you know, a commercial vendor that is offering services for SSO and authentication. The Gordon Food Service was also interesting because for their needs, we went through extreme customizations, not only look and feel or some high-level changes, but real deep into the data model and authorization. Another US-based customer is Virgin Voyages. That is, from there, we are using the whole power of Synco provisioning and via WA also doing single sign-on. And in this case, the orchestration was made even more difficult, as you could imagine, because they have several ships, and we are also orchestrating across all these entities that are with all the problems you might imagine. And another another healthcare institution. This is again in Italy. We also find a common pattern, as we did for universities and for higher educational institutions. Even here for healthcare, the needs are mostly the same. This case was also interesting because they had to, again, here we have very involved provisioning with several rules, a high number of resources, but also for authentication and authorization. We have custom reports that are needed for the business that they're asking for. And finally, a very interesting item is the possibility to integrate with, to be called by a third-party application built on Drupal, as in this case, via our REST layer. So we also offer a centralized way for other applications to produce and consume identity data. So that's all. Thank you very much for your listening. And in case you need more information, you can reach me up to the contacts I've placed on the first slides, or you can just browse our website at www.tirasa.net. Have fun.